Hello all, a very good evening to all of you and welcome to Get Set Law. In today's video, we'll be talking about or we'll be analyzing the NLSAT 3-year LLB paper. So today on 17th March in the morning hours, 3-year LLB paper of NLSAT was conducted. This exam is for the most prestigious institution, those graduate students who wants to pursue 3-year LLB from NLU Bangalore. This exam is conducted for that, and today was the paper for 2024 intake. So let us understand or let us have a look at what was the paper, a brief analysis of it. So if we talk about the first take of the paper, the students who appeared for the paper, what was their first take on this? So almost all of you, all the students who appeared for this had this viewpoint that this paper was a bit lengthy. Specifically, part B was a bit lengthy part to write down all the answers, which we have continuously spoken about in the previous videos where we have already mentioned. I personally have already mentioned that you need to focus on time management when it comes to part B. Time management is one key factor that will sail you through your part B, that will sail you through your paper. So in this situation, in this case also, although the overall take of the paper was that it was moderate, it was not very easy, at the same time it was not very difficult also, but at the same time the paper was a bit lengthy. So this was the first take. Let us now look at the highlights of the NLSAT paper. So when we talk about cutoff, that the paper will have the lowest score to get into the NLU Bangalore, it is tough to predict at this stage because the paper just happened. The students have a mixed review. Some are stating that it was difficult, some are calling it a moderate paper, and we are predicting that cutoff will be on an average, kuch average pe rahega. So at this stage, predicting the cutoff will be difficult unless and until we get the highest score. So let's wait for the result to be declared before we discuss or before we state the lowest cutoff for this exam for you to clear this exam. Now let's talk about the paper. How was the paper, the pattern of the paper, what were the questions, probable questions were there, or maybe the questions that were there, the brief analysis, a brief discussion on it. So paper, as we all know, was divided into part A and part B. Part A had multiple choice questions where you have to pick up the answer. Total of 75 questions were there in part A. Part B consists of 75 marks, where 7 questions were there, 6 questions from legal reasoning coming for 10 marks each, and 1 question was from current legal issues for 15 marks. So this was the overall pattern of the paper. When we talk about the passage, what kind of passages were there? So in this paper, passages were from a varied topic. Various kind of topics were included. The questions were also very broad, open, and very from very broad topic. It was not a very close-ended question. So in this paper, we had, these are the few passages that we had in this paper. So first of all, what kind of constitution Nehru envisioned? So that was first passage, where the questions were from all legal part, from logical part, where you have to give inferences, conclusion, and then the GK also, static and current affairs. One passage was on taxation on gaming apps. Then there was an excerpt from the book which was mainly focused on communism, and most of the questions were also focused on communism. Then the other passage was on marriage as a means to immigrate to a better country for women. So this was a passage that was given. One passage was on Gaza. Then there was again a comparative passage which was talking about North India versus South India. So these were some of the passages that were there in NLSAT Part A. If we talk about the questions that were there from these passages, so when we talk about legal questions, I'm talking about the MCQ questions. So overall, in one passage, approximately 8 to 10 questions were there. One passage was followed by 8 to 10 questions. That was again a mixture of different subjects: legal, GK, logical, language comprehension. This was again a mixture. So when we talk about legal questions, it was not very difficult. It was comparatively easier. Basic questions were asked about citizenship, fundamental rights, recent bills that were passed in Lok Sabha. So these are all part of current affair knowledge, static legal GK, current affairs on legal current affairs. So all these things things are part of that. So when you are well versed with what is going on and around, as we have mentioned throughout, that when you are well versed with the current affairs, you will be able to qualify NLSAT. Reading newspaper will be a key for your exam. This I've repeatedly mentioned in all my videos. So even today it had it had been proven right that reading or maybe paper reading, being aware of what is going on in and around the world, will be helpful if you want to appear for NLSAT exam. For GK, again, the topics were mixed. Questions were from sports, medicine, books and authors, awards, women cricket. These kind of topics were included, and mostly the questions were from the year of 2023. The current affair question were from 2023. So for the exam that was happening in the year 2024 March, your last 1 year GK is very relevant. As I have already mentioned, last 1 year GK becomes the most important GK for this exam that is going to happen in 2024. For language comprehension and logical part, the questions were very generic question that we expect and that we see in almost all the exams: inferences, strengthening, weakening of arguments, details, conclusion, summary. All these questions were there. So this is general question that we generally see in all the exams that have passages in the question paper. Now, when we talk about part B, so part B had questions. Part B had different questions on legal reasoning, where you were not supposed to quote any law, but you were supposed to argue, to give your viewpoint on the basis of the facts that were mentioned, on the basis of the principle that was mentioned. And it was talking about a variety of questions like defamation, contract, citizenship, liability. These were the questions where you have to showcase your argumentative, your analytical skill. That was required, not your legal knowledge was required. When we talk about the 15 marks question, the one question that contained 15 marks, where you have to write approximately 500 words, two options were there, 2 to 3 options were there on meritocracy and its validity, and permission to be given to trans people in sports. So you have to pick one option and then you have to write. So this was the overall analysis of the paper that came today. Overall brief highlight of the paper that came today. Overall, as far as we have discussed with the student, as far as we have seen the paper, it was a moderate paper. So we can expect that cutoff will be somewhere above 100. Only the highest will be somewhere above 100. And let's see, when the highest score is declared, then we can see that what is the actual cutoff. Then we can predict that the lowest cutoff will be this. So that till then, all the very best for your upcoming exams. And I hope this video was useful for you. If this video was useful, make sure to like the session and subscribe to our channel. Thank you so much.